I am not a man who's into farming games, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who agree with me. And when I say farming games, I'm using a huge generalization, including Farming Simulator and Animal Crossing, even if there's no farming involved. Now, it's not a bad genre at all, it's just a taste I don't care for. Slow, slice-of-life gameplay with a focus on atmosphere. For the most part, it's just not for me. Stardew Valley is one of my favorite games of all time. Each part is impeccable, from characters to gameplay, from quests to decorating. I actually enjoyed myself here much more than any of the games that fit into my most enjoyed genre. But why? Boom, here we go. Gameplay, story, atmosphere. The trinity of a good game. Every game has these, it needs them to be good. Just because it's good doesn't mean you need to like it, but these are important. Tetris, Pong, Pac-Man, you know what these games have in common? They're older than a US politician. And also, they are pure gameplay games, with a huge focus on aspects and very little anything else. A focus Nintendo famously has, with a model that creates fun, interesting gameplay first, and centers everything else around it. Just goes to show how important it is. Stardew Valley is not a Nintendo game. I mean, obviously, gay people exist in Stardew Valley. There's very clearly not a focus of gameplay here. Doesn't mean it's ignored. Hell, if it was ignored, I wouldn't be playing it. There are a lot of elements to Stardew Valley which connect to each other in fun, unique ways. Sure, you can only ever do farming the entire game, but it's going to be a long time until you're able to upgrade your tools. You can just mine if you feel like, but you're pretty much locked out of endgame content. You would think this can lead to problems as players will feel obligated to use gameplay mechanics that they have no interest in, which is usually true. That's why games like Yakuza make a majority of their minigames entirely optional. Stardew Valley uses the same method. Kind of. You see, what this game does is make roundabouts, a way to skip content you don't want to experience in return for the player having a higher investment in the other aspects. For example, you can use the blacksmith to buy metal instead of going mining. The reason this works so well is it forces players to directly focus on the things they want you to do. The second thing the game does is far more clever. They just made a good gameplay experience. All segments are fun on their own, not hugely complex as to confuse the player, but still challenging enough to where improvement can be made. Sure, we can only use roundabouts, but if only the farming segment was fun, you wouldn't really have a choice, would you? The mines have more engaging real-time gameplay to give a more adrenaline-pumping loop, while fishing is more of a relaxed experience, similar to that of a mobile game. Both do have their places, but a single player most likely will swap between them at any given time, giving the player a wide box to play with. This all synergizes with the day-night mechanic. You only have so much time to do what you want to do throughout a Stardew Valley day. And while you usually don't have to start over with your tasks, you do have to start it back up again. You still need to walk all the way to the beach or the mines. I mean, if you're going to Skull Cavern, you have to start completely from the beginning. This all means that it gives you a guaranteed breaking point in the middle of your task, giving that player an opportunity to stop. Certain things will also impact the day. High luck, rain, birthdays, or all of these impact what you'll do on a day-to-day basis. Now, the story is a major part of many games, personally some of my favorite. Stardew Valley doesn't really have it, at least in a conventional way. Now, Stardew Valley has very small stories that you only see a fraction of the time. You peer into the lives of inhabitants of the world. Like I said, a different type of story, a story you view, even in a video game, one you rarely interact with. But you still do interact. You get to make stories of your own and have children and make friends, relationships. You get to make dates, go to the movies. It's a story of relationships, a core inherent trait of humanity. In other words, go touch grass. But still, this type of storytelling is unique and gives an emotional connection you rarely see in pretty much any video game. Nearly all video games are focused on having the player always be the main character, or at least up in the action. Sometimes it's nice to see these stories as they appear. The way the emotion mechanic works out is actually pretty interesting. You can talk to people to become friends. It's not fast, but it does happen slowly. Now, if you're not trying to metagame, it's fun to find all the gifts in the town loves and hates. It's fun to talk to Willie and give him your fish while you're out fishing, or giving Abigail a cool rock you found on your way back home. Now it's all basic shit. What's interesting is they return the favors. They send you gifts, recipes. They take you out on an expensive date. They give you their trust, something that feels real when it's optional. Atmosphere. Holy shit, this game has atmosphere. From the graphics to the music, this game oozes it. And I need to clarify how hard it is to create good atmosphere. Take the farm, for example. This picture is fine, you can tell it's a farm, but so what? Then you add the animations and immediately, this looks more peaceful. To create animations like these, it's hard, like really hard. Just by looking at this, you can tell the artist went through dozens of iterations to get this just to flow right, to match the aesthetics well. And they did it 4 more times, a complete graphics overhaul for each season. I also forgot about rain, and loads of other weather conditions, not even including the weather itself, but just the way it affects the graphics. It all gives a different feeling and adds to the atmosphere the game gives. That's all just graphics, not even including music. The music is superb, not a soundtrack that I would listen to daily, but one that, say it with me, fits the atmosphere. It's far more important for a song to fit the tone of a scene, rather than it just be fast-paced and epic. Sure, it would fit for a lot of games, but even in the most tense segments of the game, it wouldn't fit. It's the power of atmosphere that works so well with the game. It's the thing that pulls you in. Sure, there's a hell of a lot of other games with great atmospheres that don't work out, but their problem is a dissonance that you need to avoid when it comes for tone. For example, Sea of Stars has extremely similar atmosphere compared to Stardew Valley, when you remove the HUD. The HUD does not work well with the world. Most gameplay elements don't work well with the world. Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful, great game, but the atmosphere needs to match the world. There's no glossy menus in Stardew. There's no epic power meters for attacks that don't impact the world. It matches the tone to the world. Menus seem just as ramshackle as your cabin. The mines feel like a walk away from the beaches. Even the fantastical elements somehow feel grounded due to the way the world treats it. It somehow feels like I could find the magic in fantastical beats if I were to take a bus to a small farming town. As I've said, Stardew Valley is a great game. Obviously, people agree with me on this, more so than the farming genre as a whole. I think it's clear that it's more than just some stupid little farming game, but a special game. It's at least special to me.